20 years. That's how long Arsenal have waited to be back on this stage. 20 years since Thierry Henry and that squad walked out in Paris and lost to Barcelona. 2 decades of near misses, title collapses, and semi-final heartbreak. And now, finally, they are here. The Champions League final, Budapest, Saturday, against the holders.
PSG aren't just the holders, They want to make history. They want to be the first club since Real Madrid to make a dynasty and defend the Champions League. The best attack in Europe against the best defense. The unstoppable force versus the immovable object.
This is Disputed Episode 8 on SportsTalk Media HQ. I'm Nate alongside G. And tonight, we bring down everything you need to know before the highest game of the season. The history, the tactics, the team news, the key battles, and of course, our prediction. Subscribe and drop your prediction in the comments. Who lifts the trophy in Budapest? Now let's talk about Arsenal, because this journey has been extraordinary. 8 wins from 8 in the league phase. Top of the group, 23 goals scored, only 4 conceded. They were the best team in Europe before a ball was kicked in knockouts. Then Leverkusen dispatched 3-1. Sporting in the quarters, 1-0 on aggregate. Disciplined and professional. Atletico Madrid in the semis, 2-1. Greedy, battered, earned. They earned that win. They've been unbeaten in 14 Champions League games this season. One key stat I found was Arsenal unbeaten in all 14 European games this season has never been done before. They'll be the first team to do that and reach the UCL final in the modern era. Gee, that's impressive by your team.
Yeah, I believe people don't give Arsenal, or rather, people haven't given Arsenal enough respect in that context. I noticed people talking about the fact that Arsenal's road to the finals has been easy. Arsenal has beaten Bayern in this Champions League. They've beaten Inter. They went to Inter and beat Inter. They've beaten Atletico Madrid twice, 4-0 and 2-1 in this same season's Champions League. And what makes this sweeter is the context of this particular game. Last season, it was PSG who knocked Arsenal out in the semi-finals, 3-1 on aggregate. This same opposition. People forget that Arsenal missed a lot of players when they played PSG last season. Donnarumma, who is now in Man City, literally played the best games of his life in both legs of the semi-finals to deny Arsenal a win. Gabriel Magalhaes, one of our better, players, actually missed that game. Can you imagine? We had Merino as a striker. Merino played in striker position. We did not have any strikers last year. The first leg of the game, Thomas Partey picked up a needless yellow card when we played the quarterfinals against Real Madrid. So when you look at that and you actually cast your mind back to what the Arsenal bench was like last year compared to this season, it's chalk and cheese, So this isn't just a Champions League final for Arsenal. It's a rematch. It is unfinished business. A revenge of sorts. Arteta and his players, they know exactly who is standing in their way. And they've spent like the better part of a year preparing for it. PSG, meanwhile, they have been ruthless, throughout this season. They beat Inter last season, in the finals last year, 5-0. Can you just imagine that? 5-0 in a final. They blitz Inter Milan, one of the most dominant performances in a Champions League final history. This season, they knocked out Bayern in the semis. And now they want to do what only Real Madrid has ever done in the modern era: win back to back.
Yeah. And here's the thing about PSG, they rebuilt. 3-4 years ago, when they had Mbappe, Neymar, people always said they were a collection of individuals, not a team. Luis Enrique changed that. This is a real team, a system, a pressing machine with world-class individuals inside it. They are genuinely more dangerous than any PSG side we've seen before. We want our viewers to comment on who they think had tougher road to the final. Do you think it's Arsenal or do you think it's PSG? We want to hear what you all think about who had that tougher path to the finals. Now let's talk about some of the injuries that we've heard about. Arteta has a couple of selection headaches. Ben White is not going to be able to make it. No, he has a knee injury, so he's been out for a few weeks. Even throughout your Premier League title challenge, you missed Ben White for quite some games. The bigger question is Julian Timber, who was doubtful from a growing issue. But now the news came out today that he's back in training, traveled to Budapest. Yeah, maybe start or not, or we'll see how that goes. But Merino also, who you touched on earlier, who was your main striker last season. He played the last game of the season for Arsenal, which was great to see him play the last game. He's also back there. So what do you think about that?
Well, the good news for Arsenal, the squad depth is real. Even without White and even Timber, if Timber doesn't start, though we heard earlier this morning that he's been past fit by when Arteta gave his news conference, said Timber is back and fit, and that is great news for Arsenal really, because Timber, you know who is going to be operating on the right side of PSG. So Timber is really needed for this game. But if he actually doesn't make it, which I hope he does, Mosquera has stepped up whenever needed. You know, the main thing is the spine of the Arsenal team, which is you've got Raya, Saliba, Gabriel, and Rice. You know, the spine of the team is a non-negotiable. They have to start. In my opinion, I'm predicting that we have Raya in goal. Right back would either be Timber or Mosquera. The two that can never be left out, Gabriel and Saliba. Calafiori or Nkapie on the left, on the left, and I'll go for Odegaard. Odegaard has to play because he makes the team. He presses hard. I'll play Luis Kelly and Declan Rice in midfield. Have probably Trossard on the left hand side, Bukayo on the right, and up top I'll put Gyokeres. So let me blow your mind with this. David Raya this season has just been on fire. He kept 9 Champions League clean sheets this season. 10 would have been an all-time record. Arsenal conceded the fewest Premier League goals, like you earlier stated. And also, Gyokeres in the team, which is like when you compare it to last season, not having a striker to having a striker that scored 14 goals in the Premier League for the team, and he's been the highest goal scorer since January, since 2026 started. So for me, that is very, 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 very crucial to this team. It's a completely different team. Also, for me, all this week, the big question for PSG has been Ashraf Hakimi. He's been out since April 28th with a thigh injury. He missed the second leg of the semifinals against Bayern. But Luis Enrique also confirmed this morning, that Hakimi is cleared and is able to play. Then Dembele, who also had a calf scare in their league game earlier this month, he declared himself 100% fit when at the pre-match press conference. So for me, PSG goes into the final with essentially a full strength squad.
That's huge. That's huge for them. And I think it's a warning for your team, Arsenal. A fully fit PSG team. Now, a fully fit Hakimi bombing up that right flank is a completely different proposition to the injury doubt we had earlier in the week. At that left side, whether that's Trossard or Calafiori, it's going to be under serious pressure overnight. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. PSG are full strength. There are no excuses on either side right now for PSG. If I look at PSG, I want to take a stab at what I think will be a good lineup for them. Obviously, in goal, Safonov has to be in goal. Hakimi, depending on how he is, Zarev, Emery probably have to be there. Marquinhos, no, probably have to play. Pacho, Mendes, Neves, Vitinha, Ruiz, Doué, Dembele. Kvaratskhelia is probably the most scary person on that team. Dembele is going to be Dembele. We know who he is. So one question for our viewers is, PSG fully fit? Arsenal missing Ben White. Timber should play tomorrow, hopefully. Does that change your prediction? Please comment below. Looking at the fully fit PSG team against an Arsenal team that will likely miss Ben White, and hoping Timber is at full strength. No, maybe not. No, how does that change your prediction? Or who wins tomorrow? Now, this is what is interesting tomorrow, that we haven't probably seen this in a while in Champions League. There was a stat that I found very interesting. Opta, for anyone who doesn't know, they are the leading football data and statistics company. They're the numbers behind pretty much every stat you see on TV. They call this game the best attack in Europe against the best defense in Europe. Best attack against the best defense. You don't get that very often in football. And they're right. PSG finished the Champions League season with the most goals. Arsenal, on the other hand, conceded the fewest in both the league and Europe. Something has to give. And the question is, which identity wins out on Saturday? Which one wins? What do you think?
No, well, for me, just like you stated, PSG's attack is built around the width and the verticality. Kvaratskhelia on the left, absolutely terrifying in my opinion. One of the most dangerous dribblers in world football right at this very moment. Doué on the right, 20 years of age, is fearless and is direct. Dembele through the middle, we all know who Dembele is. And he operates as a false nine. A lot of times it drops deep and it drags defenders out of position. And behind them, you've got Vitinha and Neves keeping the tempo. They press relentlessly. They start quick transitions. Arsenal on their own side, they are the best team in Europe at the minute without the ball. So they don't have to have the ball. Arsenal will have, for in this particular game, they're not going to have any time on the ball, which suits them down to the ground. So they will do what they have to do. Get the ball and quickly, turn defense to attack. That will be the name of the game. And Arsenal does that better than anybody. I don't think they've been given enough credit for what they do, especially when it comes to the Champions League. They completely different animal to when they play in the Premier League.
Okay. So, well, this is what I think they would do. Compress the space. I think you mentioned that now. The 4-3-3 is one of the most well-drilled defensive structures in Europe. Saliba and Gabriel, they don't panic. I think the experience that those two have is what I like. I know Saliba made some mistakes, which I saw some of the games, but I guess he's been one of the best defenders, in my opinion. Those two folks, they read the game very well. I think they're like a match, a match made. So them, Gabriel and Saliba, match made in heaven for sure.
Twins.
Rice also a similar in behind, and the key for Arsenal is winning the midfield battle, in my opinion. Rice is your anchor. Odegaard pressing from the front. If you can disrupt PSG's tempo in midfield, you'll be generally in this game. You'll be leading in this. I think you will be. And one tactical point that is very interesting from Arsenal all season is you are deadly from set pieces. And PSG have been vulnerable in the air in knockouts. So with Saliba, with Gabriel, with Gyokeres, they are all dangerous from corners. So I think that's an area that you should be able to probably press and exploit PSG. So exploit that weakness from there.
The more I think about things, the more this matchup keeps coming to mind. Bukayo Saka against PSG's left-hand side. Bukayo is back to his absolutely best this season after a long injury layoff. His ability to, dribble, cut inside, and sometimes pick up penalties and create in tight spaces is like elite. And he'll be going at Nuno Mendes. I remember the last season when when Arsenal beat PSG in the group stage. Nuno Mendes was in for it. Bukayo kept going and going and going at him, and he couldn't contain him. So I believe Nuno Mendes is like an elite attacking fullback himself, but he loves bombing forward. So he's going to have his hands full because Bukayo is going to pin him back, in my opinion, in this case. So one of Nuno Mendes' strength may actually be stripped off of him tomorrow, because I believe that Bukayo is not going to give him a minute's rest. He's going to keep him forward. And for me, facing Bukayo Saka in this moment, in the way that he's feeling right now, especially having won the Premier League, the stress is off. They know that this particular game is a gimme. So it's just a matter of all the players are just going to be so free tomorrow. So for Nuno Mendes tomorrow, he's got a brutal assignment.
Brutal indeed. But on the other side, Kvaratskhelia against whoever starts at right back for Arsenal, whether it's Timber or Mosquera, Kvaratskhelia will pro. You know that. It's going to pro. It won't stop. Enrique will put him one-on-one as much as possible. That flank could decide the game. Yeah. But the big tactical question for Arteta, does he go cautious and play a defensive midfielder alongside Rice, Zubimendi or Luis Kelly? I hope to hit PSG on the counter, or does he go brave? Odegaard in the number 10 role, Eze drifting behind and actually try to play. What are you leaning towards? Which approach do you think you would likely go for?
No, in fact, now that you brought up Eze, that's another trump card. That I didn't factor in. It wasn't there last year, and we all know the kind of player Eze is. He's a moments player. So for me, I would want Arsenal to be brave. Every time Arsenal has been brave, especially in the Champions League, it has always bode well for them. Let's remember last year against Real Madrid, and even this season against Bayern. At the time, Bayern was at the peak of their powers. They were the best attacking team. I think they had beaten somebody 10 something at the time, and everybody was saying, you know what, Arsenal is going to suffer. But by the time Arsenal faced Bayern, It was lights out. We couldn't even believe. So for me, I would want Arteta to actually be brave. PSG are going to have the ball, regardless of what it does, in my opinion. You can't starve them of possession. So if you are going to concede territory at all, you might as well have the quality in midfield to punish them when you win the ball back. Odegaard starting this game is a non-negotiable for me. You know why? He's the one player who makes Arsenal tick. He leads the press. Odegaard is a pressing machine on his own. He presses relentlessly. In this particular match too, Luis Kelly is an absolute must to start because Luis Kelly is the one player in this Arsenal team that carries the ball well. He's a ball carrier. And another thing that Luis Kelly does better than a lot of players is that it causes the opposition to commit fouls anywhere around the pitch. And carrying the ball and going forward, like at first, Luis Kelly is like he's always rearing. He picks the ball and carries it. It may cause PSG it may force PSG to commit a foul in a very dangerous area. And then here comes the moment, and here comes the man, Declan Rice, to be able to come and do his free kick magic again, just like he did last year against Real Madrid.
Yeah.
So Luis Kelly has to start. So for me, I think going back to whether Arteta should be cautious or he should be brave, I will go the brave. But of course, with PSG, you have to know when to reel it in, when to be defensively minded. And Arsenal, they've matured in that area. So Arteta should actually, be brave. But I would like the viewers to let us know, should Arteta be brave or should he be cautious? So, so this is where the debate is between whether he has to be brave or be cautious. Just leave your predictions and let us know your comments.
Let's kind of switch gear a little bit. So Arsenal haven't been in the Champions League final since 2006, right? Does that extra desperation, that hunger, give them an edge? So I want to get your opinion. Number two is, does the weight of that occasion even become a burden? PSG won this last year. They know what it takes. They've been here before. Arsenal haven't. So what's your take on that?
This is a complete, going into this finals, if you had asked me this question 2 weeks ago, and we had to play the finals maybe 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said, oh, the weight of expectations would do this, would do that. But I tell you, I don't disagree, that experience matters in finals. But what just happened to Arsenal in the last week changes everything. Because I would argue that Arsenal's Premier League win, clinching the title last week, has actually freed these players up mentally. They were carrying a lot of weight mentally. I'm very sure, that the players were even starting to doubt themselves. Even Arteta himself said that at some point he started doubting himself, that was he, good enough to actually get this team over the line, or was it just supposed to be the man that would change the culture, do all the things he did, and someone else would come in and now take them over the line? So even the manager himself had that weight on his shoulders. So you can imagine the pressure that was being transmitted to the players. Now the pressure is off his shoulders. The pressure is also off the shoulders of the players. They've already achieved something massive this season. Having not won the league for 22 years, they have done that. They've tasted what winning something feels like, the atmosphere. So they are free. They are not chasing any type of validation at this very point. And that could be very, very dangerous. proposition for PSG. They can go into Budapest with nothing to lose. The thing now is that I believe that the pressure has now shifted back to PSG because they are also chasing something that hasn't been done before. PSG didn't win the Champions League until last season, so they broke the hoodoo. Now they are chasing another record of being the first champion to go and retain the Champions League. So for me, Arsenal winning something this year gives them a completely different mindset going into this finals. And that's having like nothing to fear, just saying, okay, yes, let's play the game and be free in our mind. That's like one of the most dangerous mindset. So that's how I say it. But what do you think? Do you think Arsenal can stop PSG's midfield? We have the Neves, Vitinha, Ruiz midfield. It might actually be the best midfield in Europe right now. They're technical, they're relentless, they're high energy. If they dominate the midfield, PSG controls everything. Arsenal need Rice, as in Declan Rice, to play at his absolute best. In fact, I think Declan Rice has to be Oludek tomorrow, as he always calls himself. He has to, pressing triggers have to be perfectly timed, or they might just get bypassed.
Well, no doubt PSG midfield is strong, but Rice has been immense in Europe this season. And the thing about Arsenal's press is not just Rice. You have, as we mentioned earlier, Odegaard, Trossard, even Gyokeres. He can work hard without the ball. That's one thing what makes him a good striker. He has the physique, the size, the physique is there, so he can move without the ball. If Arsenal can disrupt PSG's beat up in the first 20 minutes, unsettle their rhythm, that's when you see PSG get nervous. And when they get nervous, I think that gives Arsenal the opportunity to do a lot of damage. One thing though is Mr. Gyokeres. He's been sensational since joining Arsenal in January. What Premier League goes, physical, relentless, excellent in behind the last line. Since he joined, he's had his big Champions League moments yet. He hasn't had that yet. Let's put it that way. Because in Champions League, I don't think he's done anything. It's been okay, but not like something extraordinary. Let's put it that way. Do you think Saudi could be that moment for him whereby he shows up? Marquinhos and Pacho are world class, but Gyokeres is a kind of forward who makes defenders uncomfortable. Can he deliver on the biggest stage of his career?
When I think about this game, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, Arsenal also has a lot of ways to hurt PSG, even though a lot of people are not giving Arsenal any chance. Talking about Victor Gyokeres, I don't think the PSG central defenders in Marquinhos and Pacho have faced a player as relentless as Gyokeres in this season's Champions League. When they played Bayern, obviously you have Kane. Harry Kane is very good. He scored so many goals. But Harry Kane kept dropping into the midfield to pick up the ball. So that gave the defense of PSG a free time. They didn't have to mark Harry Kane. They just stood back. They stood off of him. But Gyokeres is going to be a totally different proposition for them, because Arteta has had enough time to actually work with the team. And I'm sure if Gyokeres starts tomorrow, or rather Gyokeres starts, in my opinion, actually, because Havertz will actually play exactly the way Harry Kane played, dropping into the midfield. But Gyokeres will really disrupt Marquinhos and his partner. He's not going to give them any time to breathe. This particular game, I think, is exactly Gyokeres' type of game. He's the best. He's also the best against high defensive lines. People are, a lot of people are not even thinking about that because PSG, they play a very high line. They play a very high line. And Gyokeres loves that because he can make runs behind, those high lines. So it's just a matter of putting the ball, over, which is what I think Arsenal should concentrate on tomorrow. Put the ball over and Gyokeres will run off of it. And that high line that PSG always leaves, I see Gyokeres exploiting it to great effect tomorrow. So for me, right, Gyokeres will make a lot of difference tomorrow. In like changing gears and talking about what you think, the score line predictions and everything tomorrow, and the player to watch. I'm thinking, right, I'm going for Arsenal. I know PSG are the slight favorites. I know the history, but I believe in this Arsenal team. I believe them so much. I believe in Arteta's preparation. Having had time, whenever Arsenal has played between Champions League and the Premier League, they've not had this much time to actually game plan for a particular opposition. But Arteta has had time to prepare for this game. I have a strong feeling Saka will be the best player on the pitch tomorrow.
Just okay.
Yes, I'm predicting a 2-1 win for Arsenal. Arsenal scores first, and you know how it is. If Arsenal scores you first, you are in a long. It ends up being a very long day for you, because a lot of times what happens is PSG scores first, and then they keep coming at you. But in this case, I see a 2-1 victory. Bukayo and Gyokeres, the scorers for me. And in this case, we make history.
Okay. This game for me. It's I'm still thinking about it. But I want Arsenal to do it. I really do. If they do win, I think it's gonna probably put them in the likes of Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United. What we've done, what we've done, like sometimes. And I think Arsenal belongs in that category of top teams in Europe. But I've watched PSG this season, and they're a machine. Kvaratskhelia is going to cause problems all night. My head says PSG edges 2-1 after extra time. Dembélé and Kvaratskhelia. But my heart says go on Arsenal. Prove me wrong. So it's like my head and my heart are in conflict right now. For you, I want Arsenal to win. I don't have any skin in the game. Yeah. Why say my loyalties to the Premier League? Anyway, so we've had Crystal Palace. They won their European
Conference
match,
League.
The Conference League. Same thing with Aston Villa. I'm hoping for a treble for the Premier League. Clear Europe, dominate Europe. But again, my heart and my head are in conflict. Arsenal proved me wrong. To our viewers, what is your prediction? Score plus scorers in the comment. We read out the best ones in the reaction episode. Want to see what are you predicting? Who wins tomorrow? Who are the scorers? What's the scoreline? Please drop that in the comment. PSG versus Arsenal, Budapest, the Champions League final, Saturday, 30th of May. Kickoff 1800 CEST, 1700 UK time. Subscribe so you don't miss our reaction episode after the final whistle. We'll be back with everything. Drop your score predictions in the comments below. Who do you want to win? Who do you think will win? Let us know. This is Disputed on SportsTalk Media HQ. See you later. Bye.